What is that? Where have you seen it? Pardon? Where have you seen that? Jehovah's Witnesses, that's true. Where else? How many of you watch Pat Robertson? You don't recognize that? He had that for a long time. It's the symbol of what? Great Christian Broadcasting Network. Who's on TV in? Huh? What does it mean? This is the marriage of church and state. Is that what you want? What happened the last time you had the marriage of church and state? Anybody who disagreed got what? Burned at the cross, placed on the rack, chopped into pieces, tortured, murdered, burned. Now, don't get me wrong, I believe in freedom. If that's what you want, you're entitled to want that all you want. But I got to tell you, you try to bring this into being and I'll fight you with everything I've got. Because I don't believe in burning people at the stake. I don't believe in placing them on the rack. And I am a Christian. I don't believe in persecuting Jews because they're Jews, because they killed Jesus Christ, because I guarantee you there's not a Jew living on the face of this earth today that even knew Jesus Christ, much less killed him. That's what's called what? Corruption of blood. Our Constitution forbids corruption of blood, doesn't it? Because it's wrong. By the same token, I don't like Jews who say, we're the chosen race and the rest of you are a bunch of stupid cattle and we're going to rule the world someday. You know what I say to them? Not if I can help it. Because why? Because it's this. Only it has a Star of David instead of a cross in the crown. Is that what you want? You see, that's democracy. When you have enough people who believe like you do to force your will upon everyone else, you become the bad guy. What does freedom say? What is freedom? The right to choose. As long as I don't hurt the person or property of any other human being, I can believe what I want, go to whatever church I want, be whatever I want, read whatever book I want, do whatever I wish, and do it abundantly and with prosperity. And without freedom, I couldn't do any of it, neither can you. When you ask for this, you're asking for enslavement. And right now, you might be the slave master, but who's going to be in charge 50 years from now? That's the uncertainty about these things. You might be on top now, but just wait a little while. It never fails. If you study the history of the world, you'll find whoever the oppressed is today will be the master tomorrow. A lot of what's happening in the world today is because this happened yesterday. Make no mistake about it, everything that is happening in the world today is because of race and religion and the persecution caused by those two different things throughout the history of the world. Is everybody up with me? I know that some of you don't agree with me. That's okay. I'm not telling you you have to. But I want you to go out of here thinking about these things and think about what is it that you really want. You want to be free so that you can be what you want to be and worship where you want to worship? Or do you want to cause a situation whereby you're in charge so that you can force your will upon everybody else so that they'll get pissed off enough to overthrow you and do the same thing to you? Because that's exactly what that brings about. Exactly, it's never failed. Study history, you'll see. It's the truth. So, gee, if our founding fathers were deists and they were members of the secret societies, and some of them were masquerading as Christians, and some of them were just flat weren't Christians, weren't masquerading at all, why did they create this country? They came here to create a new world, not a country. How many of you really read what they wrote? They didn't come here to create a country. They came here to create a new world. What did they call it? They called it the New World, didn't they? What else did they call it? The Grand Experiment? The Great Experiment? Remember reading those words? And just read right over them, didn't really understand what it meant? They came from a world that was oppressive, ruled by kings and queens and popes and prelates and bishops and lords and barons, who just because they didn't like the way you looked could chop you into quarters and throw you to the pigs if they wanted to, anytime they wanted to. And if you didn't believe the religion they wanted you to believe in, they'd burn you at the stake or torture you. In some way, make your life absolutely miserable. They came here to create a new world, free from all of that. But they knew that they could not be safe in the new world if the old world was the way that it was. How do you get rid of kings and queens and barons and lords and emperors and prelates and sultans and emirs? How do you do that? That's exactly right. A new world order. From the beginning, that was the goal, ladies and gentlemen. That's the absolute truth. From the very beginning, that was the goal. What do you think New World means? What do you think it means? So they did something that was unheard of, never been done in the history of the world. They set the cattle free. They said, you're not really a serf. You're not really a slave. You're not really as dumb as they say you are. You're not really a bunch of cattle. Now you're free men. You got brains. We're even going to write this contract to guarantee your freedom. But we know you won't keep it because you're human. And they wrote about that, didn't they? Didn't they tell us all the ways that we would give it up? Didn't they write about it? Didn't they warn us over and over and over and over again in all of their writings? They knew we would give it up because we're human. And they were geniuses who understood human nature probably better than any single group of men that's ever lived throughout the history of the world. They understood it perfectly. What did Ben Franklin say when he came out of the Constitutional Convention after everything was signed, sealed, and delivered? Somebody said, "Hey, Ben, what have ye wrought?" See? A republic, if you can keep it. He knew. They all knew. What was it really about? Why did they give it to us if they knew we would give it up? And they did know. Make no mistake about that. They knew. What do you think the fight over federalism was all about? They wanted to make sure that at some future point, the great central government would seize control. They even pretended to fight over this. Like all of these secret society people do. It's called the Hegelian dialectic. We want all these people to do something. So you and I are going to get together. We're going to create two different causes. We're going to get all these people wrapped up in it. We're going to pretend to fight against each other. And this fight is going to bring about the conclusion that we really wanted in the first place. They're all going to think that it was done accidentally by them, and we didn't have anything to do with it. How many of you understand the concept of Hegelian dialectic of manipulation of political resolution? If you don't, you'd better read Hegel and you'd better study it, because that's what's happening. That's what the abortion issue is all about. Can government decide the abortion issue? Can you decide it with laws? If you could, everybody would obey the law. There wouldn't be any issue, would there? The Supreme Court has already made the law, haven't they? It's the truth. The whole issue is designed to create a conflict which cannot be solved except by some world body. And by the way, if you want confirmation of what I said about the Founding Fathers, if you really believe that they were Christian, go look at the city that they laid out from the air. Look at the symbolism that they built into it. All deist, all Masonic, all Jacobin. It's another word for Jacobin, Illuminist, Illuminati. Go into the Capitol building, stand right in the center of the rotunda and look straight up at the dome where nobody ever looks. And what do you see? You see the apotheosis of George Washington, riding across the heavens in the chariot of Apollo. Who is Apollo? George Washington. He's become God now. And around the perimeter of the Capitol dome, you see all the old gods of the Roman pantheon. They're all there. Zeus, Mercury, Prometheus, all of them. What's that doing on the inside of our Capitol dome if this country is a Christian nation? Can you tell me that? No. And you never will be able to in a million years unless you turn around and admit the truth. The truth is it never was intended to be. The people in government for many years have been Christian. Are they now? Most of the people in our government now are not Christian, and that's part of the problem today. They have no morals, no ethical standards of behavior, and therefore anything goes. They're a pack of pathetic, chronic liars, which is the sign of a socialist every single time. Socialism believes in what? The supremacy of the mind of man, not in God. Anytime man has supremacy over everything, everything becomes what? Subjective. If you're God, how can you do something wrong? And that's the whole problem with this crowd now. They don't have anybody to answer to. You see, whether you believe in God or not, the human race must have God. They must have a superior power to which they must answer. If they do not, then everything becomes subjective, and if I want to slice your head in half, by God, there's nothing wrong with me doing it because I'm God. You understand that? That's really what's wrong. When man has nothing or no one to answer to, man can do no wrong, can he? And by the way, when you hear politicians and talk show hosts and newspaper reporters using the term masses, those are Marxist, socialist speaking. Americans never use that term. Americans say the people, the American people, my fellow Americans. Only a Marxist, socialist, or a communist will use the term masses. And you're hearing that on talk radio and in the media all across the country all the time, and on television, even Dan Rather uses that term. Dan would rather be read. There is only one uniting common bond amongst all Americans. What is it? Freedom. If that isn't the most important thing in your life, you're not going to do a thing to help us save this country. In fact, more than likely, whatever you're going to do is going to help us destroy it. And I say us because it's the truth. If you want to really know what's wrong with this country, when you go home, go in your bathroom privately so nobody else can see you do it, close the door and look in the mirror. Look in the mirror. The truth is, what's wrong with this country is the American people have lost the knowledge and the motivation and the meaning of what it was all about to begin with. It was always about giving the common man freedom. Why? Because, folks, our founding fathers knew that if that would work, that would be the New World Order. If we could accept it and be responsible and hang on to it and make it work, that would be the New World Order. A direct result of it would be that giving the common man real freedom would topple every king and queen and sultan and emir off their thrones all around the world, and that's exactly what it did. Isn't that true? And they knew that they couldn't have any kind of a new world or new world order of any sort unless they got rid of the kings and queens and sultan and emirs and lords and barons. That's why they called this the Grand Experiment. Because that's what it was. If it would work, it would be the New World Order. If it wouldn't work, it would be whatever they thought that it should become. You know what they think it should become? You know what they're trying to make it now? A world totalitarian socialist government headed by a, quote, benevolent, unquote, dictatorship. They're going to present you with a Messiah. The whole world will accept this person as a Messiah. You can call him the Antichrist, whatever you want. I don't care. It's going to be the answer to all your problems. Worldwide. And the whole world is going to bow down to this person. Whether you believe in Christianity, the book of Revelations, or not, I'm telling you this is what's going to happen because I've talked to them face to face, and they don't even hide the fact. That person will wear the throne of the world. Behind that person will be a council of what they call wise men who will really be the rulers. This poor guy is just going to be the fool they stick out there to take the brunt of the public wrath whenever it's necessary. Then you can knock him off if you want to. They just put somebody else up there. You don't have any choice, even if you vote. Because the choices that they give you to vote on all belong to them. Why do you think Charles Collins and Rosemary could not get in the debates? Could not get on ABC, NBC, the communist news networks, or any of the rest of them? Why do you think the American people were never shown them as a choice? Because you're not going to get a choice. They will put 2 or 3 up there for you to vote on. All belong to them. They'll even make it like they're really against each other. They'll make you believe it. They'll even throw you some trash about one of them, so maybe you won't vote for him, thinking the election's fair because that's not a moral person. And then who do you put in the White House? The most immoral person that ever lived on this planet. Communist Clinton. You don't have a choice. That disappeared a long time ago. There's not a nickel's worth of difference between the Democratic and Republican Party, and hasn't been for an awful long time. And it doesn't matter which one is in the White House, we still go toward the New World Order, don't we? We still go more and more into socialism, don't we? But if they were truly different, that wouldn't happen, would it? So, I guess that, what time is it?